Spanning from Asia to Europe, Russia is the largest country in the world, covering over 17 million square kilometers. Because of this vast size, there are many remote areas that most people don't know about. Today, we're going to explore Chukotka, located at the far eastern edge of Russia. Hidden within this desolate, icy terrain is a wealth of fascinating things. President Putin once said that Russia's future lies here, from massive gold mines to indigenous peoples. Chukotka is a friendly place with its own unique culture, and it definitely won't disappoint you. So why wait? Let's head to the far east of Russia. This remote area in the Russian Far East, called Chukotka, has a small population of just over 50,000 people, spread across 737,700 square kilometers. It shares borders with the Sakha Republic to the west, Magadan Oblast to the southwest, and Kamchatka Krai to the south. The people living in Chukotka are mainly Russians, along with some indigenous groups. The only autonomous region in Russia that doesn't include or depend on any other federal subject. Chukotka separated from Magadan Oblast in 1993. With its unique geographical location, residents of the peninsula are fortunate to have visa-free access to neighboring Alaska. This is probably one of the most appealing aspects of Chukotka's location. It's only 86 kilometers across the Bering Strait to the U.S. coast. Most of the Chukotka Peninsula is covered by a low plateau of the same name, sitting at an elevation of between 600 and 1,000 meters above sea level. This rugged landscape is characterized by individual peaks and hills. The highlands play a crucial role as the main source of life for the peninsula, with some rivers flowing from this plateau into the Chukchi Sea and others heading to the Bering Sea. The highest point on the Chukotka Peninsula is Mount Iota, standing at 1,194 meters. The highlands here abruptly drop into the sea, creating a series of steep cliffs. This area is known as the land of the Chukchi, where most of the land is covered in permafrost. It's a harsh and rugged peninsula with a unique beauty. Winter here seems to stretch on forever, taking up 10 out of 12 months of the year. During this time, the peninsula turns into a frozen landscape with no signs of life. But when the short summer finally arrives, it bursts to life with a diverse range of plants and animals you won't find anywhere else in the world. Plus, this area is filled with rivers and lakes, so there's plenty of water resources. All the local springs freeze over by September and only start flowing again in early June. In winter, the rivers freeze all the way to the bottom, and the networks of lakes and swamps really thrive on the peninsula. The swamps are mainly found along the channels of the big rivers, and along the coasts, you often see lagoon-like lakes. In the mountainous areas, the largest lakes are Kolin and Jonai, and in winter, they get covered with thick ice, sometimes up to 2 meters deep. There's not much forest in Chukotka. You might find some clusters of small birch trees and common pines, along with a few durian trees. This peninsula is characterized by tundra vegetation with some unique features. Blueberries and other types of shrubs, along with moss and lichen, grow all over the place here and can be seen as a special flower symbol of the Chukotka climate, which is shaped by the positive influence of 2 oceans and a very complex atmospheric circulation. This is also the place with the most days without sunshine and the highest number of storms in the country. You might be wondering who was the first to choose this harsh wilderness as a stopover. Research shows that the first residents to set foot in Chukotka were Siberian sandparo workers from Central and East Asia. According to historical records, Chukotka is the homeland of several indigenous groups, including the Chukchi, Siberian Yupik, Koryak, Chuvans, Lamuts, and Yukagirs. This area went through collectivization and resettlement during World War II, when the Nazis attacked the Soviet Union in 1941. Everything was put in place to ramp up tin production as quickly as possible in Chukotka, leading to rapid development and making it a key industry here during the war. Geologists found a large gold reserve that was set to be mined in the 1950s. In 1977, Chukotka became an administrative unit under Magadan Oblast. In 1991, Chukotka declared independence to become a part of the Russian Federation on its own terms. This move was confirmed by the Constitutional Court of the Russian Federation, and in 1993, things changed. From 2001 to 2008, Roman Abramovich was the governor of Chukotka. Many people might know that Abramovich is a Russian oligarch and was once the owner of Chelsea Football Club. He made some significant investments. Billions of rubles, including his own money, went into boosting the economy by developing school infrastructure and housing. This helped double the region's GDP and more than triple residents' incomes. In 2004, Abramovich tried to resign, but was reappointed as governor for another term by Vladimir Putin. In early July 2008, it was announced that President Medvedev had accepted Abramovich's latest request to step down as governor of Chukotka, despite his various charitable activities. From 2000 to 2006, the average salary in Chukotka went up from about $165 to $826. Even though it's a remote area, Chukotka has plenty of natural resources like oil, gas, coal, and gold. While mining is a big focus, most people in rural areas still rely on reindeer herding, whale hunting, and fishing. The urban population is involved in mining, administration, construction, culture, education, healthcare, and other industries. Many people might be surprised to learn that the reddest city in Russia isn't the capital, Moscow, but rather Anadyr, the capital of Chukotka. This region is one of the hardest to reach in the country. The distance from Moscow to Anadyr is nearly 6,200 kilometers, requiring an 8-hour flight due to logistical factors. Prices for goods in this area are the highest in the country. For example, 1 kilogram of tomatoes costs about 900 rubles, around 240,000 Vietnamese dong, and 1 kilogram of bananas goes for about 970 rubles, close to 380,000 Vietnamese dong. 270,000 Vietnamese dong, based on statistics covering 264 types of consumer goods and services in Anadyr. It's 57 times more expensive than the national average. Behind the far eastern town in Russia are the settlements of Kamchatka and Jawa, which are also part of the country's far east. Both Moscow and St. Petersburg, the two largest cities in Russia, aren't even in the top 10 most expensive cities in the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that the future of Russia lies in the Far East, mainly because of the abundant metal mineral deposits. Recently, over 100 tons of gold were discovered at the Savino mine in Chukotka. The largest discovery since the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991 has been made by AMZ, a mining division of the state-owned ROM Group. They've been drilling continuously under permanent conditions all year round for 3 years now, and so far, they've drilled 123 wells. All exploration work, including topographical, geochemical, and geophysical surveys of the site, has been completed. Storm has invested over 1 billion rubles to develop a mining cluster based on the Savino mine, which aims to establish an industrial complex for ore extraction and processing. The CEO of Aircon Mining and Metallurgy Joint Stock Company, which is part of AMZ, announced that they plan to start producing and processing gold by the end of 2028. This comes before the largest gold mine in Russia begins operations. Back in 2019, Russia also launched the world's first floating nuclear power plant, called the Academic Lomonosov, which has been authorized to operate. This plant is set to provide electricity to remote areas in the Arctic region of Russia. This floating nuclear power plant is located in the port city of PX in Chukotka. It's a key piece of infrastructure for developing Russia's northern sea routes. The average lifespan of a floating nuclear power plant is about 40 years, but it can be extended up to 50 years. Once it reaches the end of its operational life, the equipment can be removed for replacement and maintenance without leaving any hazardous materials in the Arctic. The Lomonosov Academy has become the first product in the project to build floating nuclear power plants. Providing heat and electricity to remote areas of Russia, this country also plans to rent out equipment to other nations. If there's a demand for electricity production or desalination, this floating plant can desalinate with a capacity of 240,000 cubic meters daily. Besides the huge gold mine and the floating nuclear power plant, one of the standout features of the Chukotka region is the Chukchi people. They are a fiercely resilient and incredibly hospitable ethnic group who have lived in the tundra long before Christianity. They call themselves the Elgravet, which means the genuine people. Unlike other indigenous groups in Siberia, they weren't